6 o'clock, I'm calling to order this regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Bandera. We're at City Hall at 511 Main Street, Bandera, Texas, Tuesday, May the 17th, 2022. All council members are present, our city secretary is present, our city attorney is present, our city engineer is present, our city engineering training is present, and our marshal is present. So everybody's here this morning. Evening. That being said, Will, would you lead us in prayer if you would rise, please, in the prayer of prayer dedication pledge.
Most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all together this evening, Lord. We ask for your blessings upon this meeting. We'd also ask for your prayers and blessings on their safe return home. Lord, we continue to petition you for rain. Lord, we need it. Please, Lord, look after us all and bless the city council as they work together to make wise decisions to benefit the entire community. Lord, most of all, we'd like to thank you for your Son who died upon the cross to save us for our many sins. Lord, help us to be good today, but not as good as we're going to be tomorrow. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor to this flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you. Item 3 is to be heard. We've got 3 tonight. Jerry, you're the first one. You wanted to address the council?
I would maybe want to go ahead, if it's acceptable, to recuse myself at this point, since it's going to go straight into item 5A. Can I recuse myself now in advance of?
We have the consent agenda as well.
We have the consent agenda first.
Whatever's proper.
I'm just public comments.
But he's under visitors to be heard, is what he's saying.
Yeah, I'm on visitors.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to recuse himself from the entire item, but he wants to make.
I'm sorry, Jerry, yes, if your intention is to speak about your item, you should probably.
Yeah, and just so I don't have to come back after speaking, for the item 4 consent agenda, I would just soon go ahead and recuse myself at this point due to personal interest on item 5A. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, if the mayor's fine with it, I'm fine.
Works for me. No, you want to go ahead and.
Sure.
That was
Ma'am. Jerry, are you going to speak now? Oh, okay, you got it, okay. I lost track of the whole thing.
I just didn't know if I had enough room up here.
3
Okay.
minutes.
Pretty much everybody here knows me, but I am a citizen and not a councilman right now. Hopefully obvious, but my wife Jane and I own Riverside RV Park here in the city. The main reason we're here is a grossly inaccurate report from the Public Works Department regarding the investigation of the city's main sewer line that connects to our park. A lot of money has been spent by the city and by us because of that erroneous report. The city has acknowledged they have problems with the sewer line that connects to our business for approximately 20 years. Past public works directors, city administrators, and mayors, to include the current mayor, have been aware. Over the years, the city sewer line backs up, then causes our lines to back up. We call and Public Works comes out, and they flush the city line. We then have to hire a plumber, or I do it, to flush our lines that have backed up due to the city's backup problem. Things have changed and escalated recently. we want to be clear that we did not start this issue. We're not seeking reimbursement for the $8,000 that we have just recently spent, which doesn't even include what we spent the last 20 years we've owned the park. After around January of this year, Public Works Director came to me and said that Public Works was going to start routinely flushing the city line at our connection once a week to see if that helped with the lack of flow and backups on the city line. Before they even started these new weekly flushings, the city line backed up again. I called the city, but no one came out. Later that day, the former city administrator sent us an email saying the city had no problem on their end. He said when our plumber returns with a camera, to let the city staff know so they can have a conversation with our plumber, which we did. This was essentially telling us again, spend more money so we can so our expert can talk with the city staff. At this point, the mayor should have taken this issue to council. Remember when that was. On February 10th, having no other choice, we hired a licensed master plumber and a licensed underground utility contractor to meet with city personnel as the city administrator requested. Public Works Director and foreman came out while our experts were at the park. They, meaning the city, ran a camera through the city sewer line and everyone there observed. The Public Works foreman then said the city has a problem and he said they will fix it.
30 seconds, Jerry.
The following week, Public Works exposed a short stretch of city sewer line, ran their camera again, and took measurements on the city side. After that, the former city administrator contacted me and wanted to meet. So the city administrator, the Public Works Director, Public Works Foreman, Jane and I met at our park. And I'll stop at that point. I would like to request, if possible, just another minute or two.
Is Jane requesting 3 minutes?
Yeah, but she may not need to if I get through.
Well, she can give you her 3 minutes.
Is that acceptable? Okay.
You can give
She
her
could
your
move it in this
minutes.
case, I know you've had a lot to say.
Okay. On February 10th, having no other choice, we hired a licensed master plumber and a licensed underground utility contractor. Did I already read that? I'm sorry. Okay, Jane and I met at our park. The foreman started by saying that he had bad news and that we, Jane and I, have a big problem. He said there was no problem on the city side, but our sewer line is 2 foot, 9 inches lower than the city line. Think about that. He was saying that our sewage flows uphill almost 3 feet. Our park would not have functioned the last 25 years, before I even owned it, and would be flooded all the time. At this point, we had no choice but to start digging up, inspecting, and taking measurements of sewer lines on our property. We hired more experts to give us their opinion. All of these professionals found that the city is approximately 1.7 inches higher than us. Definitely not 2 feet and 9 inches lower as the Public Works staff told us. The whole report from Public Works is flawed, and I don't have the time to go through every item on there. We met in March with the city administrator, the Public Works Director, the Public Works Foreman, and the mayor. We pointed out several inconsistencies in the Public Works report. The mayor and city administrator then involved the city engineers. The city engineers came out, took measurements. On April 19th, Jane and I met with the mayor, the city secretary, Jonathan from Bandera, if I could say his last name, for sure I would. The mayor also asked the mayor pro tem to attend. Jonathan went over his results, which matched the results from my experts. Both of our results were contrary to the Public Works report. Jonathan found issues on the city side and presented possible solutions. You should be hearing about that in the presentation. On May 4th, we met with the mayor, the city secretary, a deputy marshal, and the city attorney. City attorney said he was going to advise council to do nothing about this problem. He also said that he does not, and I quote, necessarily agree with the engineer in training, who wrote up whatever he wrote up. It's not a final report, and Derek didn't sign it.
Jerry, can you wind it up, please?
Huh?
Can you wind it up, please?
Sure, I've got about 50. We aren't sure why the city attorney believes that he has the knowledge to disagree with city engineers and all the other experts in this field. City attorney also insisted we needed to file a claim. We said we don't have a claim to file because we aren't seeking reimbursement. We've made that clear from the very beginning. He also implied that Jane and I didn't think it was necessary to take this issue to council. That is not true. I recently reminded the mayor at one point in all this, I told her she should involve at least the city attorney, not due to any threat of suit. city administrator and the mayor had the opportunity to take this to council at any time. Jane and I felt it should go to council, but it was not for us as a citizen to take it to council. Once again, we have no claim. This is a city problem. City has an obligation to provide sewer services to our business, and right now they are failing. We hope after you hear the presentation and receive the findings from our bureau that you will have enough information to make a decision to correct this issue. The mayor, public works in the report have said that we have an issue on our side. City policy has been that if the problem is on the property owner's side, it's their problem. If the problem is on the city side, it's the city's problem. We realize it may take time to decide on the best solution, but we hope tonight that the city agrees they have a problem and they will fix it. However, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry.
Appreciate your patience.
Okay, so, Rilla?
I don't think I need to go over there, but I will.
Ma'am?
I said, I don't think I need to be over here, but I will.
Please do.
Please do. I'm a longtime resident of the city of Bandera, taxpayer, I pay them on time, so forth. I just want to remind the council that each of you have run for an office to represent the people in this city, the residents, that you are supposed to take care of things. We shouldn't have to. So, setting aside facial remarks by some, I would like to remind you that you are elected to take care of any problems in the city and not put it off on us if it is not our problem. And I have run into that too. So I don't know what's happening with the city. I do remember in digging up that line, I owned a business out there. It's been many years ago. And they had problems then, and they dug it up again. So you need to think about this, get it fixed. I mean, that's just simple. Get it fixed.
Thank you, Rilla.
Thank you, Rilla.
Thank you, council.
Okay, item 4 is the consent agenda. Item A, approval of minutes from the April 5, 2022 public hearing, April 5, 2022 regular meeting, April 19, 2022 regular meeting, and May 3, 2020 regular meeting. Council?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Rebecca?
Should you, I'm sorry, should you note that Councilman Russ is no longer in the meeting?
I noted it before he left, so again, as we call roll, we will then
I'll
again.
second.
Thank you, Darcy. All in favor? All in favor, Darcy, Tony, Christine, and Rebecca. And Jerry has recused himself for the time being from this meeting. Item 5, discussion and possible action on the following items. Item A is a presentation, discussion and possible action regarding the wastewater main that services the Riverside RV Park. Derek Nizer from Ardora is here to speak with us. Derek,
How you doing?
good to see you again.
How are you doing, Mayor and Council?
Oh, may I just, for clarification, I thought when someone recused themselves, they had to leave the meeting.
No, that means leave the dais.
Okay, okay.
I'm pretty sure I was under
I
that
know.
impression as
Yeah,
well.
I
That was-
definitely was under
That was
that
explained to
impression.
us at the last convention, that they had to leave altogether.
So that might work, or just kind of move it over?
You can leave it up.
All right, so, we're,
It's just a formality that I thought I was asking about.
Yeah, that
Jerry,
was,
that's
that
all.
was
It
what
wasn't personal.
TML explained that, I was at the same convention.
Sorry,
she
Derek.
was, Yeah.
It's okay.
all right, so, start off just kind of by giving you a summary of where we've been. I don't know if y'all have seen Jonathan's summary of meeting notes from the past, but I'll kind of start from the beginning. I guess back in about March, we were brought in to start looking at an issue with sewer backup at the RV park. and try to do some investigations to try to determine what some of the issues may be and recommend some possible solutions. And the exhibit that I have there that y'all are looking at, you notice there's a bunch of red blocked in elevations and stations. And working with the city public works, you know, we were able to expose and locate the line so we could take elevations on it. So that's what that represents. And then the green line is kind of a representation of how that sewer line runs back to the lift station on the property where the wastewater treatment plant is. So when we take a look at this line and from the data that we collected, and one of the issues here, I wish we could have done more, but that sewer line, as you can see, is underneath a concrete, parking lot, for the hotel there, and so it's kind of, without doing, digging up and saw cutting or removing and replacing concrete, which is pretty expensive, we were kind of only able to locate the line and pothole elevation information for about 65 feet, the first 65 feet of what would be the city's line. And what we found was that throughout the course of that 65 feet, that line, I'm going to call it flat, but it's basically kind of up and down. You can see it goes from 1207.73, 1207.5, 1207.67, 1207.5, and 6. So it's pretty flat. I mean, it does go up and down a tenth or so in that segment, but for the most part, it's flat with a few minor dips on the order of about a couple of inches. So the minimum slope requirements required by TCQ would be, of course, a 0.335% grade, in which we clearly do not have here because it's basically flat. So another thing that we determined while we were out there in the field that we came across is the service. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but wherever the service clean out is or whatever for the RV park, they are, as alluded to earlier, about 2 inches roughly, let's say 2 inches lower than that.
2 inches or 2 feet?
Huh?
2 inches or 2 feet?
It's 2 inches.
2 inches, okay.
Did somebody use a foot mark instead of an inch
No,
mark?
I just was wanting to clarify.
Yeah, so
Just keep an eye on
so
that.
basically,
Hands.
you could say that, the city's line is kind of up and down plus or minus an inch and a half or 2. And then that would probably continue on for another, 80 feet or so or 70 feet into to that clean out location in the RV park. So, naturally gravity sewer lines, you gotta have slope, and then when you don't have slope, you have problems and issues. So that's just kind of what our findings show. So and I don't know if there's any questions y'all wanna have at that point before I kind of get into some possible solutions and what that would cost. Yes.
Is it normal or abnormal for like the line at all to move due to age, ground movement? I mean, we're talking 2 inches.
That can happen, and I'm not sure what the soil conditions typically in this limestone, rock, and I don't know, maybe that's not over there, maybe it's more
It's flood.
silt and
The floodway.
caliche and river sediments.
that-
So, I mean, it could move around, but not enough to make 65 feet be out of
That whole
grade,
thing floods.
be off grade. And once again, I don't know the history, unless there was a bunch of fill material put in there or something before the sewer line and everything settled, that could do it, but I don't really have the history or know the history beyond 2017 to be able to say. All right, so basically, bottom line is, we've got a large section of flat grade, extending both on the city side of their line and then on the private side. And, if you look at the next page, I put together, and I just put together 2 simplified estimates here. One is, you replace the line from that existing manhole that we put in 2018, right there, and I don't know the name of the motel, but it's kind of at the bottom of the page. You show invert elevation 1204.6. There's a manhole we put in there in 2018 when we did the lift station project. So replace it from there back. That, of course, would be about 143,000, so let's just say in round numbers, 150. And then we did another estimate, the 109 would be if we went in there and did some potholing to check the elevation in different locations underneath that concrete pavement to determine what the slope of the line is beyond where we were able to expose it. We could then identify a section of pipe, you know, whether it's 100 feet or 200, it would depend on the elevations that we uncovered when we did that exploratory excavations. We could then go in there and replace, find out what the minimum linear footage of replacement we'd have to do to get the TCQ required .335 minimum slope. And at that point, you know, I did one kind of a worst case one of 109,000, but let's just say that could range, and I wouldn't be able to answer it until we did the potholing and exploratory excavation, but let's say that's on the best case scenario side, like around 75,000, and then on the worst case around 110. So that's another, that's, you know, kind of like, let's go in there and just do the minimum amount and spend a little bit of more field time trying to figure out what that is, and just only replace that section of line that's out of slope and put it back into slope. The second option that I just discussed would not help the situation out, because even though, well, potentially could not help the situation out, because even though you're fixing the slope on the city side, there would still be, you know, a part on the other side, and I don't know if they would be able to adjust or make some kind of modifications to their line to eliminate their, you know, the flat spot on their side. So it would bring the city up to speed with what minimum slopes are for an 8-inch sewer line pipe. I don't know that it would be an ultimate solution to the problem. It would probably require something on the order of a grinder pump or something like that on the private side to be able to get that flow to that point, to that inlet point on the city's line. So that's kind of, you know, what we have there. I mean, you know, we haven't spent a whole lot of time other than some survey on a limited section of this pipe. The city did do some televising. However, you know, they're limited in how long they can televise, and we were able to see parts of that, but really not the whole line segment from the end to that manhole to really fine tune anything more than what I presented today. He wants in.
Questions? Yeah, do you have a question?
I do. So Derek,
Okay.
there's a lot of unknowns, but do you feel certainly that the city side does have an issue?
I mean, I haven't been out there and observed, you know, whenever they're doing a flushing or whenever they have a backup, or been out there to open up everything and take a look at all the cleanouts. All I can say is that from our investigation, there is about at least a 65-foot section of the city's line that is kind of where that part right in there where those red arrows go to, yes.
Okay, and so what you described is that there's a little, within 2 inches, there's a little bit of rise and fall. And what I'm asking, is that enough to cause a problem like this?
It could be, because what happens you know, that whole section, like I said, on both sides of the fence is flat, and when you have a gravity line that's flat, you know, you say, well, yeah, if it fills up with water, it's gonna trickle out, right? But it's not just water, it's solids too. So you have solids, and when you don't have a flushing velocity, or you don't have enough flow or enough grade to generate a velocity that flushes the solids with the water drains out and leaves the solids, and then that's what causes the backup.
Okay.
So being flat or off grade for a section could definitely cause a accumulation of solids in the backup that you would need to flush.
Okay.
And so your proposal on both of them, we're replacing a 6-inch with an 8.
The existing
Wanna
line's
make
8
sure you
inches.
call 'em
Oh, the
before
existing
this.
line's 8, I thought it
It'd be
said.
and even if it was
I know,
6,
but
we would
10
replace it with 8, yes ma'am, because we're trying to get 8-inch pipe has a flatter slope, so we can put it in on a grade that's more advantageous to what we're trying to do for this
It's a
particular project.
6-inch from the property line, going to city side is 8" to the middle.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Hang on, Jerry's had his head on it. I'd like him to comment, please.
No, I don't
It's
think,
not a workshop.
it's not a workshop, it's not a, this is between us and our engineers.
I would like to
I
provide
don't
some
think so.
important information.
I don't think
It's
so.
Something that should be talked about.
No,
If I could, please.
I think,
He recused
Pretty easy.
himself.
Hang on. Yes, Tony.
I believe he recused himself. He had the opportunity to give us information and background of his experts that he said that he hired to plead his case, and we could weigh that with what our engineers, and if he claims it to be different, I don't
This
see
is
this
not
as a,
pleading my case.
I do
please.
not see this as a workshop. This is between us and our engineers and what, and I don't believe that we should take comments from the audience. We don't normally.
I think it's your call, you're directing the meeting, I don't think anyone should speak that you don't call on.
And if he continues to speak without you calling on him, I think he should be asked to be removed.
Well, then
That's-
since you are too, Tony. if you
I
like
still had
to-
the floor, nobody
Well,
else
you
had
took
it,
the floor away
so,
from Rebecca, so-
okay,
So that vote.
yeah, so,
A few
okay,
minutes ago, she began.
okay, I give up my floor.
Jerry, you have something very brief you want to say?
His estimate, his estimate.
It's up to the council then,
Oh,
so.
never mind, he's talking to him. Darcy?
Jerry. So, in y'all's professional opinion, because I don't do this for a living, so I don't know. I know virtually nothing about this. So, in y'all's professional opinion, and you're saying that, you know, when it's flat, obviously, you know, if it's either way, and when it's flat, it can't push it because of gravity. So, if it's flat on the city side, you know, it's having a hard time, but if it's also flat on the RV park side, is it gonna help that the city fixes the flat part on the city side if it's still an issue on the RV park side? Or
Yeah, I mean, that's
is
the
it-
part that I kind of spoke to that a minute ago. We could go in there and redo the line. I don't know, because I don't know what part of the line is causing the clog. I mean, all I know is those sections there on both sides are conducive to causing some type of backups. you
We
know,
still need more
collection.
research, really.
I'm sorry?
We still need more research, really.
Well, you know, I mean, I think to develop a cost estimate for what we can do, it doesn't change the scenarios that I just mentioned. You know, I mean,
Okay.
I think you've got $150,000 to replace that whole line, a whole segment of line, which you could probably be able to lower the flow line, at that last point. Or you could go in there and replace the part that's out of slope requirement, and it would cost anywhere from about 75 to 110, depending on what that length was and if you needed a manhole. And beyond that, you know, that's the city side. You still do have the flat spot on the other side that has to probably be contended with in some way to be able to make sure that scenario doesn't occur again.
Tony?
So, you know, we're here to talk about what the city's responsibility is. And, you know, there is an existing connection. So when it comes to, you know, drawing a line from one going to the other, there's gray area, no pun intended. But.
You mean where one stops and starts at?
Right, because if you're saying that one, so if, you know, we're dealing with soil that has been in the flood for many years since this connection has been built. So if you're sitting there and you've got to connect, and we've got, you know, say we had the right, say miraculously, which we know it probably wasn't true, it was built properly in the beginning. And the customer
The slope
was
was
higher
correct.
and the
The slope
slope
was
was correct and
average.
it was even and it was the right pipe size and everything. We're dealing with, you know, drought conditions, severe wet conditions, flooding, all different kinds of things in that area, so on the customer side as well as our side. So it doesn't surprise me that over the years it's cattywampus, right? So if there's a 2-inch difference between the two, there's going to have to be a fix on both sides, right? So at what point do we determine what the starting point on the line is? Are we going to put ours? I mean, since we're already tearing everything up and putting it in, do we have a starting point on this side where we have to make sure we have a slope, and by the time we put that degrade, we only have a finite space, right? So we start from the sewer and we go and we progress at whatever degree you tell us to. It's going to put us at a point that's not gonna be matching our customer, right? I mean, if we do a bare minimum slope this way, not the other way. So it's gonna be a bare minimum slope, right? So we're gonna get to an elevated point, so even if we're 2 inches off now, by the time we fix our side, it could be greater than that. So there's no doubt that there's gonna be something that's gonna have to happen on the other side.
Well, I wouldn't, I mean, we would, if we did, you know, the second cheaper option where we just go in there and do the minimum to replace the out of slope requirement section, we would match at or below where the existing elevation is now. You know, where that service connection is, where that clean out is. So, you know, we would be at or below that.
So other than money.
I would not design it to where it was higher, no.
Right, so other than money, what is the benefit for us to go the cheaper route in the long run? Because ultimately,
To
we're
the-
gonna have to figure
I
out,
think to the overall issue at hand, not just looking at the city's, you know, section, I said it earlier, I don't know that it would solve the problem, because if there is a problem with that section of pipe on the landowner side, that could still be creating a problem that would need to be addressed, even if we do that.
and that's not our concern. We want to provide what we can at our point. I mean, we don't wanna cause something that's gonna be unnecessary on the customer side, ever. But so with all of the stuff coming up that we have down the pike, I mean, if we've got issues there, we're gonna have to address them at some point. So we all know that inflation and the cost of things is just going up. So what we don't know, we don't know. So we could go in the cheaper route and get into a point and end up costing us $150,000 rather than just doing it all right the first
Yeah,
time.
that's right, and that's why I put that $150,000 out there, you know, why go all the way back there? But we know, because at that point, we know what elevation we're dealing with, and we know we can lower that invert at that service tie-in point by over a foot, which would probably go a long way to making everything work.
Right, and what kind of soil samples have we done? Like,
We haven't gotten any.
we don't know.
Right, item A, presentation, discussion, of possible action regarding the wastewater main that services the Riverside RV Park. Rebecca.
I would like to make a motion to authorize the city engineer to prepare an estimate up to $10,000 to further the studies regarding the city main sewer line in the area in question, for utility locators, tie down easement, survey data, scoping and estimating.
Are you good
Work.
with the second motion?
I'm just gonna do that one for right now.
Second, Tony? Discussion?
So just,
Yes,
go
Rebecca.
ahead.
You can go ahead.
No, it's got yours.
So the reason for this motion is that we give the city engineer some more time and room to collect more data, to provide the city council with all of the more solutions and possibly better solutions so we can determine exactly what the real issue is with more data
And tie down the cost better.
and tie down the costs better.
Tony, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to clarify the motion. So it's locate utilities, lock down the easement, and there was a piece in there about survey.
Yeah, I'm also really just comfortable saying Derek's gonna bring us back an estimate of up to $10,000 to do what he needs to do to get, for the information that we need. So I don't wanna be limiting by making that list either. He's gonna come back with the proposal.
Okay,
Of
so the
up
reason
to-
I seconded it was because there was an end goal to that $10,000.
Yes.
And it is to resolve our easement,
Easement,
to lock down our
utility,
utilities, and have a secure survey.
survey, and then scoping and estimating.
Scope and estimate.
Yes.
Construction.
Scope and estimate for resolution.
Yes.
For resolution.
Okay, and we're leaving out the other piece for Department of Public Works.
He's gonna include that in the proposal.
So
No,
we didn't
no.
need to authorize them
We have to
for,
continue to do that.
to
Rebecca.
continue
That's
to-
gonna be a
Authorize.
separate.
That's what I was
Yeah,
asking.
that's gonna be a
Okay.
separate
Okay.
motion.
That's why I was
So-
asking you for Rebecca's second motion.
okay,
Yes.
so
Okay.
do you need to restate it, amend it, or, okay. I don't know.
Everybody good?
I don't think the motion as it was stated is as clear as it was when she
Okay, so
restated
the
it.
motion was to authorize the city engineer to provide an estimate up to $10,000 to include the utility locator, the tie-down easement information, the survey data, and the scoping and estimating. Are you still
I
comfortable
second that
seconding
amended.
that? Okay.
that
Yes,
amended-
okay.
that- I second that restated
Are we good?
motion.
All right, further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Rebecca, do you have a second motion?
I do. And sorry, was it every 2 weeks? 2 weeks, okay. So the second motion, it would be to direct the Public Works Department to continue the routine flushing every 2 weeks of the wastewater main that services the Riverside RV Park.
Tony, seconds? Further discussion?
I guess I just wanna make sure that that is what has been done, and that's sufficient. And just to reiterate that it's temporary.
Thank you. We've been doing this off and on. We've tried to do it more regularly lately. If we set it up as every 2 weeks, should there be a tremendous amount of rain or something that would cause it to back up, there's no reason why Public Works could attend to it at the time. But this is a routine to be done regardless, without being called, out there at Riverside RV.
I'm sorry, Darcy.
Darcy?
And we also wanted to include in that motion the 2 potholes or 2 locates by Public Works to assist with the engineers.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so I didn't, ma'am.
Please,
Okay.
amend, yes.
So I feel like that needs to come in with the estimate and then we approve it. Because we don't know what we're approving until we get really the full estimate from Derek. He said right now drill 2 potholes, but then he said, okay, I'm gonna just finish the other piece I wanted to add and then we can debate about that. Or there can be another motion also. This is just about the flushing. And you said you couldn't think of any reason why they wouldn't go out an additional time. Is that correct?
No, what I was saying was, should there be an emergency, should there be a backup, and should there be a reason, there's no reason at all for them to say, oh, well, we did this last week, so can't go back next week. They can go back at any time, but they're definitely to do it once
A
every
minimum.
other week, a minimum
Yeah,
of
but
every
does
week.
that mean that they could be called out every day and be told to come out? I don't wanna leave anything too subjective for the department. So does it need to be more often than
No,
every 2 weeks?
it doesn't really.
Okay, okay.
But again, on Friday, sometimes there's, looks like it might back up. But every 2 weeks that should do it. Yes, Tony.
So, I'm okay with the motion not including the potholes, but the potholes are needed in order for them to finish their estimate.
No, ma'am.
That's what he said.
That's what he
Yes,
said.
I just
Rebecca,
asked
they
Okay.
are.
Yeah,
But they're a part of this work,
no,
correct?
No.
No, no, no.
I had indicated that, we don't have the equipment or
I
whatever to do
know
that.
that.
And that I asked if the city would be able to assist in potholing those 2 additional locations.
Which is gonna be included in this work, in the $10,000 authorization? No.
The
That's only
10,000
Public
is for my
Works, yeah.
surveying services, engineering, and
And in-
tying down the properties.
and in order to
corners and
do
all
that,
for the thing.
separately, the
And it's
department.
up to, y'all are authorizing up to 10,000.
Okay. So I feel like maybe I'm being misunderstood or maybe I'm not being clear. When this work is done is when you need the potholes. I'm not saying that the $10,000 includes the cost of the potholes. Okay.
No, that we all agree on,
Okay,
and
so-
that's why I said, I'm okay with it not including it, but I wanted you to understand that the pothole thing
It's
is a
not in-
Department of Public
yes,
Works,
I do.
is to do that separately, and it's not included in the
Would you
10,000.
prefer that it was included in
It doesn't
this
matter to
one motion with for one directive?
I would prefer it to
Okay.
be in one motion if you're
Okay.
gonna include it at
Okay,
all. Yeah.
I'm happy to do that as well.
Thank you.
With your permission, Mayor, I'll
Please,
amend my
ma'am.
motion. So the other directive to the Public Works Department is to drill 2 potholes at Derek's
Location.
locations. Okay.
Very well. Second, Tony,
Thank you.
thank you. Further discussion? All right. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Okay. Jerry, ready to come back up?
I don't know. Are y'all done?
For item B,
Yeah, we're moving on. Item B, discussion of possible action on approving an ordinance changing the zoning classification from P3 neighborhood, excuse me, to CS Civic Space on the property located at 315 6th Street. Legal description, Bandera, Range 6, lots 25 and 26, 0.6368 acres. Tony,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the request.
thank you. Cersei, second. Discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item C, discussion of possible action on approving an ordinance changing the zoning classification from P3 neighborhood to P4 mix on the property located at 315 10th Street. Legal description, Bandera, Range 9, lots 34, 41, PTO 0.413 acres. Rebecca?
I would like to make a motion to go against the the planning and zoning recommendation and grant this
Zoning change.
zoning classification change from P3 to P4.
Do I have a second?
For discussion.
Christine, second for discussion.
So,
Okay, before we, council, as you discuss this, remember it takes a supermajority to overturn the recommendation of planning and zoning. So it'll take 4 of you to vote to overturn it. Go ahead, Rebecca.
and I do get the feeling from the public hearing that that's not gonna happen, but I just really wanted to express that I would support this change. I think at the very least, maybe instead of just outright denying it, maybe even tabling it and give the opportunity to, I don't know if there's protocol for going back to planning and zoning. I'm not sure if there was some extenuating circumstance that kept you from being there to speak on your behalf, on your own behalf for the request. And it also sounds like it was kind of a unfortunate accident, that a lot of the people who did speak up against it weren't really there because of your agenda item, but you unfortunately are catching the negative impact of that because you didn't get to speak for yourself and some other people, you know, were able to
I was on
attend.
vacation, I planned that back in February or something, last week. it was.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Would you be willing to rescind your amendment?
By motion?
Your motion, I mean. To consider tabling it, because that's what I would like to see.
To withdraw?
Because
her
I
motion?
haven't, withdraw and make another motion.
To table. But, okay, so, and I'm sorry, just may I continue for
Yeah,
a
y'all
moment
finish your
before you go on?
conversation, make it quick.
I don't know what the protocol is for sending it maybe back to P and Z for
I'd be in
a second
favor of that.
consideration.
If you remand it to the Planning and Zoning Commission, we'll republish and hold an additional public hearing.
So that's the language for a motion would be
Well,
to
To
remand.
remand it to the Planning and Zoning Commission for an
Kicks
additional
it back
public hearing.
for an additional public hearing, okay.
Tony?
I definitely want the property owner to be able to have flexibility with this property, but I think that our place types does allow that. I don't think that we restricted him anything now than it was from the time he purchased the property to what it is now. And I just don't, I think it's unfortunate that he explained to us that he doesn't know what he can and can't do with the current place types. He wants a discussion about that. So by changing it now, I think it's a little premature. I don't think changing it is the option. I think it's a clear line. I think it was there before and it is now. And I don't think it's really been decided whether he can and can't do what he wants to do in the first place, because he admittedly tonight said he didn't know what it meant, what the new place types are. So I don't think that changing it is the right move. I'm not saying that later on down the line with more information that I wouldn't change it later, but I think it's a bigger it's a bigger picture and maybe even more properties could be considered to be changed all at once to make it more sense. But right now, I don't think it makes sense.
Darcy?
I agree in a certain instance. I agree with Rebecca, or I would like to see it tabled and go back to P&Z. I'd like to know that you got to speak on your own behalf for your property. I always want to hear what the citizens have to say, but I would like to hear a more finite plan. And I'm sure the P&Z probably feels the same way if I can even begin to speak on their behalf. But definitely have a little better plan. But I would love to see it go back to P&Z and you be able to speak on your behalf. I don't like that the city would foot another expense sending out notices again. But I'd be, in this circumstance, I'd be willing to do that so that you can speak on your own.
Rebecca, would you like to amend your motion?
Shall I amend or withdraw and make a new motion, Dan? And also, would the notices have to go out again if we
Yes.
remand it back to P&Z? They would, so we will have that expense. Okay.
So, yeah, yes, you should, if you wanna do a different motion, you can withdraw your motion, and you can make an additional, a new motion to remand it to planning and zoning commission for further action.
Thank you, Dan.
Rebecca has the floor, Tony.
I know.
I'm finished, that's
you're
all.
done?
That's
Okay.
what I-
So before she makes a choice, I would like to offer an alternative, is that if she did pull her motion back and he continued to try to figure out, do a little more research on what he can do now and what it is today, and then at that point, if it doesn't work for you, you have a better idea of what you really want, and then at that point, the city would incur the expense required to help you. But I think we've already incurred an expense to the city and the citizens and the taxpayers to something that he doesn't even know he can and can't do because he doesn't know what he wants to do in the first place. So I think it would be beneficial for you to figure out what your options are in P3 and in P4, determine which one fits better, and then maybe go down this route again with a little more information.
So then table it.
Then we can just table it
Then you
and
can
it
just
can
table
come back directly back to council at
Yeah,
a
if you-
future time. We can have another public hearing.
No, okay, so you've already had a public hearing, so
Okay,
it's
no
pending.
more public hearing.
If you don't remand it, you can table it, but if you do so, you need to table it to a specific meeting in the
Okay.
future, don't just, it's
Right,
really a
right, right.
postponement rather than a table.
Okay.
Table is if it's the same meeting, you're gonna bring it back up, but if
Okay.
you're gonna postpone it to a future meeting, you need to state that
A
date.
future meeting.
But are we gonna send it back to P&Z?
No,
I'd rather
No,
not.
that's
Oh, no,
not
just
what
do it
she
here,
said.
okay.
So,
Fran, come on.
I can? Thank you. So I'm going to just then amend my motion and request that this item be postponed until our meeting on, are we in June?
Give him 30 days.
Yeah, we're in June.
We're
We're
May.
in June. I mean, May. Okay, June 21st. Thank you. June 21st.
Second?
Do you,
Second?
well, there was
Well,
our, I
Christine,
made
she
an
amended
amendment.
it, so it needs to be
So can
Christine.
you-
Oh, I'm so sorry, it's amended motion. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
I'll second the amendment.
Thank you,
Christine.
Christine.
Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Okay, item D. Again, we have a public hearing, discussion and possible action on an ordinance amending Chapter 5, Fire Prevention and Protection of the Bandera Code of Ordinances, adopting updated codes and local amendments. These local amendments have been available for review on the website. There's been a hard copy here. Any of you have comments on these new and updated codes, in particular our local amendments which affect us here?
Do you need to state the time of the public hearing to open it?
Oh, it is now 7:44. I'm opening the public hearing. I apologize, folks, but it's in the agenda item, I just lose track. All right, there's no one commenting in from the public. So it's 7:45, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Council, we have the fire codes ahead of us.
I have some.
Yes, Rebecca.
I really don't wanna put anyone on the spot, and I'm not a fire expert, but I'm curious to know if everyone has read this document word for word.
Nope.
And I have zero judgment about that. I just think that, that this is really worth significant consideration. I mean, I'm just trying to find a for example. And there's so much of it that I think is gonna be really beneficial and as a safety measure for the community. But there's a lot about wind speed in here and it refers to the fire marshal. I just would really beg you guys if we could just do a workshop and get through this bit by bit, make sure that everything is relevant to our community and it's really what we wanna enforce in our community. And there, I didn't see anything personally about not burning under power lines. I didn't see anything about registering your fire, which is a practice in the county, which I think would be smart to be a practice in the city. And I definitely do not want to prohibit people from having recreational fire pits where they burn their seasonal brush, especially because the city provides what I think is really inadequate brush pickup to keep our properties upkept.
Tony, may I quickly? Will, after our last meeting about the fire codes, did you have an opportunity to reach out to the fire marshal?
I have not been able to catch up with him. He's been busy with meetings and out of town and stuff, but I haven't forgot about it. I just haven't been able to catch up with him yet.
Comment
Okay.
on that.
Thank you. Tony?
I thought where we left it was Will was gonna contact him and we were gonna have a workshop and ask for him to be present for his expertise, and I was kinda shocked to see it back on our agenda.
Yeah,
So that was my comment.
Rebecca?
I ran into the fire marshal after Commissioner's Court the other day, and he said he would be more than happy to sit down with us, and help.
So when y'all can arrange a date, let's do a workshop. I mean, that's where we left it last
I
time.
thought so.
Why don't we, since June the 22nd, 21st is the second meeting in June, and that is our
If it works for the marshal,
our band
it'll work
meeting
for
and
us.
our fire marshal, should we postpone this to June 21 as well?
I mean,
It's important, we need to make it happen.
I mean, if you can offer him a couple of dates and then of our meetings and ask if something works for him, I don't think it matters.
You know, I also, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I told Jason I wanted to call him to personally go over it with him, and I wouldn't mind sitting down with Will and Jason outside of a workshop too, if that's helpful for timing, just to get, okay, and we could have two, without a quorum, and just to get it done as quickly and, in the most convenient way for the people we're asking for help from.
Well, what kind of action y'all?
Mayor Pro Tem, when you sit down with him, let him know that the local amendments were written by the fire chiefs and marshals of the Northeast Partnership in San Antonio, and that the outdoor burning regulations are substantially the same as the city of Kerrville's local amendments for outdoor burning. So you have a reference point.
And
I'm not
also,
gonna remember that.
and also for everyone to
remember
correct
that.
North, east, west.
the referral to the TCEQ regulations, that is state law.
That's state law,
and
yeah.
Even if we left it out, it's still state law.
Correct.
I understand that. And a county burn ban supersedes whatever we do too, so.
Okay, so item D, what kind of action y'all want on council?
The same as the last time that's in our minutes that we approved earlier.
Postpone
is
to
a-
June 21st?
No, find a date with the
Workshop.
marshal, and we're okay with whatever date that is. If he can tell, I mean, our schedule's set, if any of those dates work for him, then that's where we'll put the workshop, right? I mean, that's consensus.
Okay. Moving on. Item E, discussion of possible action on the final invoice for Texas Land and Right of Way. Council, after I sent them an email telling them we no longer needed their services, would they please return all the documents, they sent us back a whole big box full of paperwork. So they did send us back all of their research, all of their work product, and they've asked to be paid this final invoice, and so I brought it to you. Darcy,
This is on top of what we've already agreed to pay them. I'd like to make a motion.
yes ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion that we not pay them this invoice and then we get with our attorney about how to draft that.
I'll second that.
Second. Discussion? Yes, Darcy?
We've already paid them too much for doing damn near nothing, and I'm not gonna stand for it. I'm not gonna use tax dollars for that.
Tony?
So the only thing I was concerned with was it stated there's no further extension and currently the city has spent over the agreed. I mean, it was them. They incurred over what the city agreed to. So I just wanted to make sure that, I mean, that, so I agree. I mean, I agree with the motion, I agree with everything. And they may have incurred expenses that they're attempting to bill us, but we clearly stopped at $60,000 and they incurred more than that. And
That's on
any
them.
contractor knows that if they do that, that is a risk on their part. And since we did not extend that contract because we did not feel that they were treating us with any kind of priority, based on several instances, that we decided that we would terminate our contract. And so just because they incurred them, I do not feel it's something that we are not paying. You know, and I don't think we're reneging on it, is what I'm saying. So, okay.
And I believe this amount is ludicrous on top of it. It's not like it's $500. This is
You should be
ludicrous.
wearing your disclosure shirt.
I should be wearing my disclosure shirt. I'm speaking on behalf of myself.
I'll just say I agree with the two of them. You said it all between the two of you.
I want
Hit
my
it right on the
tax
nail.
Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. All right, item F, approval of resolution for facility use agreement with the Bandera 4-H shotgun team for Riverfest 2022. Jerry?
I would like to make a motion to approve the resolution for a facility use agreement with Bandera 4-H shotgun team for Riverfest 2022.
Thank you.
Second.
Christine seconds. Discussion?
You have a couple of blanks you'll need to fill in on that resolution. That should be the discussion.
The fact that that needs to be said is disturbing.
Page 40.
No, I know where it is. There it is.
I'll let Jerry, do you wanna do?
Yeah, I
that
guess I
section?
kinda have to do this, huh?
Do we need discussion about these blanks?
Well,
Before you amend
it
your
would
motion?
help.
I would think so, I'm trying to help you out.
I think I know most of it, but,
Jerry?
questions? I just wanna make sure I am filling this out right. This in-kind services for the event Riverfest 2022? Is that what we're referring to it as? Is that what needs to go here?
The in-kind, that would be the marshals, the gatekeepers, the groundskeepers.
Okay.
This
glad
was
I
suggest-
Well, yes, Rebecca.
What are can we have some dialogue? Have you guys discussed this at all? Can you tell us what the Riverfest is asking for?
Yeah,
Awesome.
they just asked that we provide gate attendants, groundskeepers, security, and then we split the gate 50-50.
So no rent is involved.
It was no charge for the park.
And
Darcy?
we're also getting, the sharing the fees of the
Vendor fees.
vendor fees, right?
That's right.
So it's not just the 50-50.
Okay.
So the blanks that just need to be filled in there, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if there's some reason why the blanks weren't filled in?
Yeah, I didn't assume that the council all wanted to waive all those things. If you're going to, so this is public revenue, so it has to serve a public purpose. So if you're going to authorize your employees to work at the cost of the taxpayers to benefit this, you have to approve a written resolution that declares it's a public purpose. And I didn't assume that y'all wanted to agree to all this, so I didn't fill in your blanks for you. So, you know, whatever they ask for, as far as the, you know, the fee splitting, y'all are entitled to the whole fee anytime anybody goes in your park. So if you're not going to take that whole fee, you're waiving, you're foregoing revenue for the city. They also asked for permit waivers for, was it permits or?
Vendors.
For the food vendors, and I didn't hear that said. So any of those things like that that y'all want to waive, we just need to put it in here. We'll type it up. We just need y'all to make sure when you approve this, we know specifically what all you're waiving and what you're authorizing the city to contribute in in-kind services.
Tony?
So a couple of things. Number 11, if I was working in a bank, it said license shall remit 10%, and in parentheses it says 50%. So if I was working in a bank, then we would only get 10%.
Where are you?
Number 11,
Page 37, I believe.
the fact that there's several things that we're not asking for that we have, and I'm just gonna make this as a public record thing for people, is that in years past, we have adamantly insisted on certain things to happen, and we are not doing that here, such as rent on top. I mean, we lowered the rent to take some of the fee from, you know, from the gate entry, and we played with that a lot, but the fact that, I mean, we're doing absolutely no rent, which we've never done in the past, or not recent past. There was another one, I can't remember what the other one was, but I do want to remind, and Dan made the point, is that as per discussion, and Vicki agreed with me when she was standing up here presenting to us last time, Riverfest itself, the city, retail, and town does not benefit from the people that come to Riverfest. They come to the event, they typically go home. Sometimes there's restaurants in the evening that may benefit from an influx of people on their way home. The people that this event will benefit this time, like the 4-H club, they have events in our area that our town benefits greatly for. So the organization that this will benefit, their future things benefit. But by us foregoing public money to maintain our park on a day and a Vivid event, we're not really benefiting any of that from the city perspective. But I just wanted to point that out.
Rebecca?
And I think there's something else.
I just wonder if we couldn't frame it to imply that, because to me the reality of it is, in lieu of the rent, we're gonna take half of the door and half of the vendor permits. So is there any way to frame it that makes it not a gift of public funds? Because we're getting something, we're not getting nothing, we're not just giving things away. And as a matter of public benefit, the event itself is a benefit to the community as an amenity,
That's why
something to do, right? Something great to do.
That's why your resolution says you are finding a public purpose in passing this resolution.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you don't have an obligation to state what the public's
Sure.
contribution to this event is.
What the public's contribution?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right, because your employees are working this event.
That's what this section 2 is for.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
identified, okay.
That's right.
Do
Man,
you see the hand that is
I think we have somebody that wants to speak on the agenda item.
So on,
Misty, would you state your name for the record, please?
my name's Misty Dietrich. So on a typical Riverfest, y'all would get 10% or 12%. And y'all aren't getting your normal daily amount of traffic and money that's coming through there on any given weekend for that day. So by having the 50%, not only are you getting 50% of the people who are coming, but you're also normal river people, but you're also getting all of those people who are coming for Riverfest. And you're not just getting 10 or 12%, you're getting 50%.
Right, but and then my only point was not to, what my point is that we as a council for recent years, and it has nothing to do with this year's Riverfest, recent years, we have dug our feet in about getting rent, and then we played with the rent versus the door, because the door is not guaranteed, but the rent is, and so whether or not, how much we wanted to guarantee that we were gonna get, that we were foregoing, that we would get on a normal Saturday to give that park up. So it doesn't have anything to do with, it has to do with the fact that we've dug our feet in, and for recent years, we have prevented the previous vendor from this kind of same sort of
And I
thing.
understand
Yeah, so
that,
it's not
but
gonna.
the previous vendor wasn't offering a 50% split either.
Right, but the reason for the guaranteed rent and the lower percent of the door was to have a guarantee, because if you get rained out, 50% of zero is still zero.
Well, you're
So,
still
I mean,
getting
I'm just saying-
50% of vendors because
All I'm
we're
saying
not
is it's a
giving.
risk, and there's a weighing point of rent versus money at the door.
Well, and I
the
understand
money
that,
at the
but
door
there's
is
a
not a
risk that
guarantee.
you're gonna make a lot more money too.
In theory, because
We-
it may
we
not, that's not, yeah, but I mean, we all hope that, but it's not a guarantee. Rent is a guaranteed money that y'all would owe us. So, y'all, the vendor, whoever it would be, you, the one last year, the one year before, rent, so, yeah, so and if you're gonna wait till the day of the event and say, I'm gonna get more money on people that are coming in the door, that's a theory. That's a guesstimate, because that's not a guaranteed on the city side. And we are foregoing. But at the same time, if you weren't having the event and it was, and I'll play devil's advocate for you, but if it was rained out, then we wouldn't have the attendance at the park either. So, so the 50% of nothing would be nothing there too, whether we had the 100% or not. It's just a risk. I'm just saying, we have dug our feet in on certain things in the past, and we're, for some reason,
Well,
not
we're
having.
trying to change it and make it better than what it has been in the past.
You are, but we as a council still have the same thing to fight for. I mean, we're still looking at the taxpayer money, and we're still supposed to be here representing, and we've had these conversations before, and I don't know why we're not having them again. So, not that I'm saying we wouldn't come up with the same conclusion, but this is incomplete, so.
Thank you.
Darcy?
So I'll say the reason I like what we have in the proposal that we got from the 4-H Shotgun Club is that, one, we get the vendor fees, and those are a done deal no matter what, whether it gets rained out or not, they're paid. So if it gets rained out, we're still gonna get those fees, whether people would go to the park or not, we're gonna have those vendor fees, so that is guaranteed. Also, I don't want the 4-H Shotgun Club to have to pay a finite rent if they're not gonna have an income, because I'd hate to see those kids lose out on money when we are a public entity and we are supposed to be helping, groups like this. So I see it as a public service, as a give back, like we're trying to do with the baseball game and giving away tickets and stuff like that. So it's one more way of us to actually be able to give back to our community. And it is a positive look. It's a good look for our community. I think it's a great deal for the city. You get 50% of the gate and get the vendor fees, and that's something that we haven't gotten before. And we're not getting all of the demands on the city like we've gotten in the past. So those are some of the reasons that I really like it, and I'd like to see the motion reflect the agreement that we've seen come in, to the city, to the mayor, that we've all gotten in our emails. So I think that would work with the resolution.
Tony?
Can I ask a clarification before I move on to what I was gonna ask? What do you mean by our demands on the city are not as much now as they were in the
Like
past?
how many rolls of toilet paper were needed, how many trash bags, how many exactly people they wanted to be working at the gates, how many security
In the
were
past, the
getting
city
to
has
the
never
site.
worked the gates before, and this year we will be.
How many
And so-
security and all, there were so many demands if you go back and look. And
No,
the same
in the
reason it was
recent
canceled
years,
last
that's
year.
not true.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've seen stuff, so I'm gonna just.
yeah, so but the demands on the city, I mean, I'm not saying, there are demands on the city every time there's an event in this town. And so this shouldn't be, I mean, I don't think it's any more or less with Riverfest. And I was wanting to know what you were, when you said the demands of the city would be less if this event was here, I was just curious to know what you meant by
I believe
that.
it's a great deal less than what it's
Okay.
been in the past
So-
for Riverfest.
So on to my, other thing. Again, I know it sounds like I'm against the 4-H club, and it's an event for the city, and everybody talks about how great Riverfest is for the city. The club itself is what's great for the city, and there are other alternatives for us to help and support this group without having Riverfest in our park on a Saturday over a weekend that we've never entertained
debate that.
before. And so to use that as a weighing point on how to give public funds to this event because it's so great for the city, there's other ways to be great for the city and support this club. So I don't think that's a good weighing point, because it's been proven time and time again, the city itself, the business does not benefit.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, you had your hand up?
Sorry.
Okay, how about if we get a vote on here, folks?
Well, we still have blanks to fill in, and that,
Yeah, you gotta come up with what you're filling in the blanks.
I don't know.
Mayor? Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Rebecca.
the way section 2 is stated, the second part, the second blank to fill in, Dan, and the contribution of the following forms of event revenue that would otherwise be received by the city for the event. So the way this speaks is that the city's gonna give them half the gate and the city's gonna give them half the permit fees, but they're gonna be the ones collecting all these fees and giving it to the cities.
So, yeah, so
Is
I
that-
think you're,
Am I wrong?
I'm
I'm
not
wrong.
saying you're wrong, no.
No, she is.
You're saying the way this is written.
Aside from, okay, take the event
Well, yeah, 'cause the way it
aspect
reads, it should
out of
say
this.
Riverfest.
If you were, if you, what is your regular rentals that you would have for your park? What would you receive from anybody else coming through that gate, right? This is not intended, the whole purpose of this is not to jam up the folks doing the Riverfest. The whole purpose of this is simply to make sure that you as a council and the city is covered because you are choosing to forego public revenue and because you are authorizing public employees to work in support of a private event. That's the whole intent of this resolution. We don't want to violate the Constitution. The Constitution prohibits that. So we have to have a public purpose. There's a three-part test to a public purpose. You have to exercise some control over it. You have to know the overall value of the contribution, and it has to, further a public service that serves public interest. All of that is intended to be in this resolution. The first part, I think y'all know what the in-kind services are. I wanted to make sure we weren't missing any. When I was here the last time, all that was discussed was the ticket takers and the marshals and groundskeeping. I didn't know if there was any traffic control or anything like that was gonna have to be done, or any public works folks who are gonna have to be out there. So we're just gonna list those. It wasn't, y'all talk about them. She's writing all this stuff down so we can type it in. And then on the second one, to your point, it's just revenue you would otherwise be entitled to on any other day out at that park. Is there any other revenue for anything else that you would be entitled to that you're saying, because we're having this event, we're allowing you to keep revenue that we would otherwise be entitled to? That's all. Right, so if we're not gonna make them pay, if they're not having to pay a rental fee, if folks coming in for that cook-off aren't having to pay for any permits, anything like that, that's all that's about. Because in order for the city to be authorized not to collect that from them
Okay,
and not require them to pay those things, we have to
Okay.
put it in here.
that makes sense. So in other words, the second blank says rental fee, or what is it, facility use fee. And is that right? And the first blank would be the services from the marshals,
That's
the
correct.
roles.
Any
that
city
you-
employees are
Employees.
gonna
Employees in the first blank, facility use in the second blank.
be, yeah.
Tom?
So are the cookers considered vendors?
They're not selling anything.
I know, but they're still entering the park.
They're
No,
not
they're just competing in the barbecue cookout.
Okay, I'm just asking, So based on what Dan said, maybe, I didn't think about that until what Dan just
As long as
said.
y'all put down as you understand it to be, I mean, that's all I care about. I just wanna make sure that we get it all in the resolution.
Because in the past, they've paid for the marshals. I mean, they, right, Riverfest paid for the marshals, and we never used city employees to do anything other than final pickup. Yeah,
Well,
so that's why we never had this conversation before.
We provided the marshals, we provided the groundskeepers.
They
we
paid for
provided-
that though. They
but
paid for
us
security.
for it.
Right, that's what that's the clarification. That's why we've never had to do this before.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Rebecca?
Can I please hear from the organization again on what it is you're asking us to put in this first blank regarding staffing, city employee staffing?
It would be groundskeepers, it would be people at the gate so that y'all know and we know exactly what money's coming in. It can be accounted for.
We're having 2 people at the gate, one of your employees and one of our volunteers. That way, complete disclosure, complete honesty. That way, nobody can say, oh, well, I know 50 people they didn't pay to get in. That way, everything is above board.
And then the other thing is gonna be the marshals.
Marshals, groundskeepers, and gateskeepers.
Now, on the groundskeepers, can you elaborate a little bit? Because you guys have volunteers for trash
We are going to have
cleanup.
volunteers that are there to help
Okay.
as well.
So how many,
Your normal daily people who are normally down.
We
Okay.
didn't want anything above what normally is
okay.
there on that day.
except the marshals?
Except
Except
the
the
marshals.
marshals.
And I know that when I worked Riverfest in the past, the cookers and their teams will have armbands for people who come in and out so that when our city people are there to take, they know that they're part of they have a finite number of wristbands, because I know when I was there before, it's like, oh, I'm with cooking team whatever, oh, I'm with cooking team whatever, but I was volunteering for Riverfest, and so I had connection to who was running it, whereas if we're gonna ask our city staff to do that, and they're trying to, you know what I'm saying, it's like they're
not wearing a
I'm just saying,
wristband,
put that,
yeah,
okay.
They're not wearing a wristband, then they need to pay to get in.
Okay.
And what will happen is, once we finally get our amount of people who have registered to be a cooker, each one of those cooker teams will be given 4 wristbands.
And everybody else has to pay.
And everybody else has to pay.
Okay, awesome.
Now, the only thing that we have changed up a little bit was the car show. Because the car show, they did not want to donate to a nonprofit, and they did not want to pay a vendor fee. They wanted us to just give them 144 wristbands, and they were gonna do what they wanted to do with it. And I told them that you either have to come in as a vendor, and you get 2 wristbands, and every car that comes in will have to pay for their own wristbands, or you have to donate to a nonprofit. We didn't care if it was a 4-H, we didn't care if it was a fire department, or the Boys and Girls Club, but they needed to donate to one of them. They chose not to do it. So, we possibly do have some individuals that want to bring their cars down there, just to set them up so that people can look at them, because it is a good way to bring people in. However, we would not end up charging those people to bring those cars in for people to just look at them. They're not gonna be a vendor, they're just gonna be there to draw a crowd.
The Bandera Volunteer Fire Department is doing kayak races, and they will keep all the money they make from the kayak races. The Boys and Girls Club is going to do a duck race and a cornhole tournament, and they will keep all the money there.
But they're considered a vendor.
They are paying a
They're
vendor fee,
considered a
that's
vendor,
right.
They're
right?
considered a vendor, but they'll keep all their money and their profit.
They will get 2 wristbands, each vendor will get 2 wristbands. Any other staff other than 2 people will have to end up paying for a wristband.
Rebecca?
Do you just need 1 marshal for the whole day?
That would
That'd
pretty
be up
much
to the
be a question for the marshal, because
Yeah.
I don't know what they've used in the past.
What happened? I turned it off already. I never do this.
I can't hear you. It's too loud in the club.
Well, you saw me turn it off earlier. I don't know why that happened. Sorry, I apologize, big time.
It's usually two to three, depending on the crowd, and in addition to the one that's on duty.
Y'all have one just for city.
Yeah, it takes one just to shepherd this.
I had another thing I wanted to ask about. Did we simplify the vendor, or streamline the vendor process so that their vendor permit from the city is included in the fee that you're charging them? Or no?
The city is waiving vendor permit fees.
Oh, so that needs to go on here. Right? Right?
If you would normally collect that.
But, well, in a sense, we are collecting it, we're just collecting
You're
it,
just
we're collecting
collecting it
more
and you're
money
collecting
in
making more
a
money,
different
yes.
way.
On top of it.
So,
Yeah.
I guess if you want us to put it there, cause technically, the vendors aren't coming in here to get their own permit,
So on
they're
the
streamlined,
on the second blank, why don't you just put,
vendor permit.
Hang on.
why don't you just reference the agreement in the second blank?
That's
You
what
know?
I tried to do 35 minutes ago.
Why can't we do that from the beginning to the end?
Where is,
It's
so that's
this,
You do it.
this whole thing?
yeah,
My brain's fried now. I'm over it.
yes.
Me too.
It's the agreement in the middle of all these things.
Okay, so show me where those things are in the agreement, if we're just gonna reference the agreement.
Well, actually, it all says, see Exhibit A, but there is no Exhibit A attached to this agreement.
I guess the agreement is Exhibit A, Dan, is that what?
Yeah, the agreement is.
I'm now,
I didn't have it when I wrote the resolution.
City controls the right to all concessions, permits, bids for all, everything. Everybody in Exhibit A, which will say. no
Where are you?
vendor fees.
Can we please try to make sense of this and get it over with?
Page 40,
Thank you.
Hey, we didn't
section
get Exhibit
2.
A.
Oh, no, she's talking about,
No, tell me that's not.
Isn't that
Jill?
this Exhibit A? We were asking where she was reading as attached to
No,
Exhibit
she
A.
wants to see Exhibit
Oh,
A.
the actual
Real Exhibit A,
Is there,
which says,
can
which is what,
oh my God.
can we please
Send it back.
get this all
Exhibit A.
hashed out? May I make a motion?
yes ma'am.
Do we have time even to postpone this?
No.
We don't, okay, well, let's work it out.
Who has Exhibit A?
If you're suggesting that we fill in section 2 with C, the agreement, then I'm saying let's get through this agreement and put everything where it needs to be and move on.
If y'all wanna approve the resolution, Jill and I'll fill in this blanks for you. Just do it that way.
Okay,
Yeah, she's
so
got notes over here.
we can leave
Yeah.
it where he put it? Well, you don't even need to amend your motion?
Dang,
That's awesome.
got off easy.
Aye.
Thank you.
Do we need any
I'm
summary?
voting.
It's too late.
Okay,
for
let's
this.
vote, folks. We've got a motion on the table to approve the resolution. All in favor? Darcy, Christine, Jerry, Rebecca in favor. All opposed? Tony's opposed. Okay, item G. Discussion on funding opportunities for the wastewater treatment plant. Rebecca, I think this one is yours.
Oh, shoot. I forgot to prepare for this, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion we table this for 3 months from now.
I'll just
Okay.
Second
re-request
that.
it. I'll re-request it. We can just leave it without just let it die.
Okay then.
I have
We'll just-
a person I want to bring in to talk
Okay.
to.
Well, I want y'all to get Derek's input on this too. because he's doing
Absolutely.
a whole lot of real new information that y'all have.
All right.
Okay, it's dead. Bye-bye.
Okay. Item H, discussion of possible action on logo for the new Mulberry elevated
Well,
storage
sort of.
tank.
Oh, you better pick the same one.
This is not making a new. Y'all just pick something and pick a color. You want the cowgirl?
Yes.
I'm cool with that, and I
Which one, I'm
like
sorry?
the cowgirl.
Cowgirl,
And I'm cool if it says cowboy capital of the world as long as we have a cowgirl. Because we don't have cowgirl in
And
it.
how
Yeah, I
about
have.
bulldog blue?
Did you give me the floor or not? I'm sorry.
No, nobody has the floor.
Yeah, we're all talking all over each other.
I actually think that it should be the cowboy with the girl riding second.
Can we get this on, come
Well,
on, Rebecca has the floor.
It's represented.
Because there's a parallel conversation going on around all of the state champion teams with BISD, the council approved to put a decal, or to allow the athletics booster to put a decal honoring the 4 consecutive year cross-country team state championship. Since it's been coming back up, and there's some momentum behind moving forward with that, it's been brought up by council members that, oh, well, we need to honor UIL, we need to like change what they asked us for to do what we wanna do. And I would just kind of suggest, why don't we at least communicate with the Booster Club and maybe give them that whole tower for all of their accomplishments, if that's something that they're interested in doing. And then maybe we could put this on the other side of our water tower. Or not, it's just an idea.
I'm sorry.
Since it's about to be painted, it's, you know, that piece, that huge piece of the operation is already underway. Can we at least have a conversation with a representative to see if that's a good option?
I didn't.
Okay, quickly, I believe that we need to follow through with the Booster Club as well, because they wanna use the Tin Man tower.
That's what I just said.
And
Can we
but
have the
You're
conversation?
talking about this tower now.
What I asked, Mayor, respectfully, is that before we do anything, can we just sit down with them and explain that we're about to go through this piece of the expense. Would they like to move their designs and have more surface to decorate
Okay.
as an option?
Tony?
I'm perfectly fine with that conversation, but I think that this represents any logos in town better, but I have no objection as putting a ponytail on it. I mean, but this one down here is boring, both of those are just like, yeah, I mean, this represents us better.
I feel the same. I would like to see this one. It looks like more fun.
With a ponytail.
And then no, I'd be fine with that, sure.
We've got boy cowboys with ponytails, there's no saying anything about
But a lot of
that.
cowgirls are more cowgirls
Here
than
it is.
cowboys
Jill?
anyway.
The reason this is back on the agenda with these is because we have a time constraint on this, because they need to put it on the tower before it goes up. So it was on the last agenda, we tabled it to this agenda, so we really need to make a decision if you want something on the tower before it goes up.
Rebecca?
What is the timeline then, please?
So we have time. I can wait for maybe next council meeting to make a decision. What the contractor has asked, and so that they can provide back to y'all for final approval, is to at least give them 2 to 3 options of what y'all are considering, so that they can then stencil that out on a graphic and you'll see like an outline of the tank, you'll see a graphic of the logo. That way you see what it looks like, because the price is going to vary depending on the complexity of the image, how many letters and colors and stuff like that. So that way they can truly give a quote to the prime contractor. They're just like, give us some options, 2 to 3. Give me 2 to 3 options so I can provide y'all back with a stencil what that looks like on the tank. And so it's not like a time constraint, like I need it today. It's sooner the better. The last thing you want is for them to move forward with construction, lift it up, and then you're coming back and worried about paint. It's much easier to paint while the tank's on the ground,
Okay.
so to speak.
Tony?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion that we use this logo and add a ponytail. And have Rebecca reach out to the Booster Club. And if they are in agreement that they would like to move their UIL stuff to this one, then we put it on the first agenda of next month and we will revisit this.
Is that color?
With the
Yeah, with the blue, the bright
What
robotic
number blue?
I'll second that.
SW4063.
robotic blue.
Sure.
Got a motion and a second, put the.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, I didn't see these
prefer the
other
safety
colors.
blue.
May I amend?
Yes, ma'am.
To safety blue 4086.
Thank you.
Sorry, I
Mayor,
didn't see
you
the
have not
second.
given me a base color for the tank,
Safety blue.
for the whole tank.
Where's that?
the
Oh, yeah.
logo.
For the whole tank.
The base
white.
color.
white.
No.
White for the
You have to have
logo,
two
right?
colors, one color for the tank, one color
I
for the
would,
logo.
I would keep it easy.
Why don't y'all make it white?
I'd say silver or white with a safety blue logo. Pure white tank with a safety blue logo.
Thank you. We're not decorating the living room here, it's a tank.
Blue tank with a white logo.
Jill, you got that for me?
I got it.
You got it.
It's a very
It'll last
visible
much longer.
icon.
It fades more. It'll fade more. It'll
Okay,
turn
so
purple.
Tony, did anybody second that? I'm sorry, y'all.
I don't think so. Or Jerry did.
I
Jerry
did.
seconded
I
it.
did.
Yeah,
We
Jerry
have a
did.
motion and a second, all in favor?
I wanna go.
Darcy, Terry,
That's not the
vote on the
table.
I
Jerry,
don't really care.
Leanna,
I didn't get the amended motion with the final, the tank color and the design color.
So I can explain it and then you can call for another vote? Okay. So I requested this logo, adding a ponytail in safety blue, which is 4086 on a pure white
Pure
4089
white, thank you.
tank.
I think that Chris wanted to say something, Mayor.
all
I
in
think-
favor? All in favor, Rebecca, are you still up or down?
I'm down.
Okay, Darcy, Tony, Christine, and Jerry are in favor, all opposed, Rebecca's opposed, thank you very much.
I tried.
Okay.
That blue
item-
is gonna come out looking ridiculous.
Item I,
Could you tell what it was?
discussion of possible action
The logo.
on request of the BEDC for $7,800 for
Please, get some order in this room. I can, there's
Oh, shoot.
6 people talking at once, Mayor.
Hey guys, really, let's get this over with, all right? Yes,
I
Tony?
really want to make sure that the amendment that I made includes the caveat that I made in
Of
the
the
original
Bandera
motion.
ISD,
of
yes.
If they come back.
I'll reach out right
Okay,
away.
thank you.
Absolutely, so noted. Okay, item I, discussion of possible action on a request to BEDC, Bandera Economic Development Corporation, for $7,800 for the Heritage Park repairs. Where's Darcy?
So moved.
Darcy made motion, Jerry seconds. Discussion? All in favor? All in favor, not opposed. Okay,
I'm
Jay.
opposed.
Oh, wait.
I'm opposed.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Tony. So for the record, Darcy, Christine, Jerry, and Rebecca are in favor. Tony is opposed. Okay, item J is the update of the 2021-2022 financials. I sent this out to you guys yesterday. Allison has been working really, really closely with me on a lot of things that have to do with the financials in City Hall right now. Without her, we wouldn't have the draft of the budget that we've got working, we wouldn't have this. There were some glaring errors that had to be corrected before we could get very far with this. Just to hit the highlights, if y'all will look at page 2, for some reason, $111,503.68 were taken out of a revenue line. Revenue is never debited in this report. This is actually grant funds. This never went into the general fund, and this is the general fund account. So if you take that 100,000 and you run it all the way through the rest of the report, when you get to page 18. Well, actually, that's before we get to page 18. Let's look here, page, what page is that? Page 3. So our total revenues year-to-date are $995,023.70, so we're right at about 58% on our revenues. If you look back at page 18, you'll see that right now, the general fund is running about $52,000 in the hole, budget versus actual. But actually, this was kind of planned that way because when this budget was approved, $118,000 was put in here as a management fee from utility fund to general fund so that we can balance the budget.
Right.
So that's really like planned obsolescence. One of the things you'll notice as you're going through here in each of the departments, I sound like Keith Neffendorf, don't I? Just saying, hold on.
A little bit.
One of the things you'll notice in each of these departments is the software user fees. They are way, way, way over budget. Found out what happened, and Allison got to the bottom of this one. The spreadsheet that we were given last year when we prepared the budget included only 1 month of these fees in each department. So we were all going, oh, look, we've got saved all this money. So Allison has done a spreadsheet with all 12 months in our coming budget. Imagine, who would think? She's taken over payroll. She's already been doing AP. She's doing a fantastic, fantastic job. I talked with, yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Tony.
Go ahead, I thought you were done.
Okay, I talked with the auditors at great length last week. And I'm gonna sound like Keith, but the money's in the bank. There's no doubt about that. The money's in all the wrong accounts. Pooled cash is not being used correctly. There's one way to make it right and one way only, and that's the way it was set up back when Betty Brown was our treasurer. But it's been so convoluted and confused and messed up. It's the simplest form of accounting that there is. But over the years, it's gotten totally messed up. And until we get it straightened up, this paper will look good. But I couldn't tell you right now how much is in the general fund. I couldn't tell you how much is in the utility fund. And I can't balance it back to the general ledger. I want y'all to think about making Allison your treasurer. But with this caveat, Keith recommended that we get somebody in here to dig to the bottom of all of this.
Again?
I'm going to suggest to you, you make it me. I want to resign my position. My hands are itching to get this fixed. I've watched this for 9 years. It was rocking right along, doing okay, but then you get down in it and there's so much stuff underneath it, you can't imagine. You got the email where no deposits have been made into the hot fund account. No deposits have been made into the Best Western escrow account. As of today, it's just ridiculous. We have to go back and dig out the 10s and the 50s. I want to do it. I know it's just something to throw out there at you right now, but I think with Allison as your treasurer, me as her mentor, she can learn. She's learned, already knows code. She knows some basic
Isn't this
accounting.
out of the agenda?
I beg your
Isn't
pardon?
this getting off course?
We're talking about the 2021 financials.
She's giving
You're going into-
She's giving an update, we can't make a decision now.
I'm not asking you to make a decision. I'm not asking you to make a decision. I'm
Well, I
just
didn't
throwing
say
something
that.
out
I
there
didn't
for
know that
thought.
was actually to
Now,
be
let's talk
discussed.
about the audit. The audit is way behind schedule, through no fault of anybody's here in this office. Some of the documents that should have gone out in January didn't go out until March, so that's where we are on the audit. The auditors were here. They cannot find some important things like invoices and bank statements. I mean, it's just a mess back there, guys. So they'll be back on March the 25th. I don't know when the audit will be finished, but it's way behind. Through, again, no fault of our own. But it's a mess. We're gonna get a D-. It's just not gonna be a good report. Did y'all have a chance to look through this and pick out anything in particular? Yes, Tony?
So is this gonna put us in jeopardy of all that we've worked on in the last 6 years to put us in financial for the loans that we've been, for the
This is-
consistency? And you can't say that it's no fault of your own. I mean, because the majority of the last time you've been our city administrator, acting city administrator. And over the treasurer the last 3 treasurers. I'm not saying it's your fault solely, because we are all council, we are all oversight of this, and we've been in, but saying that it's no fault of ours, I think we should all take fault in this, because it happened under our watch, and you can't say that it hasn't.
The audit delay is no fault of
That's what
ours.
she
I
said
did not say this
specifically.
was no fault of ours.
Well, the reason for the
I
audit
have-
delay is because our financials are in.
No, ma'am. The
Okay,
reason for the
I
audit,
misunderstood that.
So
No, ma'am,
records
that's not
keeping
correct.
is what,
The
No.
record keeping is causing the audit delay?
the former administrator called the audit delay. He received documents on January the 4th that should have gone out to our vendors, which he handed to Jill the day that he left, March the 24th, and say, oh, here's this envelope, go do this.
that's the delay in the audit.
That's the delay they're
Okay.
talking about. No, this is messed up. This is,
But it all still happened under our watch, so the fact that,
Yeah.
I mean, no fault, I think that's a big statement.
well, I was
because-
I was talking
It's just
about
an
the audit.
expression.
But anyway, I don't wanna keep you all night, I know it's getting late. But basically, the money's in the bank, it's just in the wrong place. And we can't balance the general ledger back to the bank statements. I'd like to start with bank statements, I'd like to start a lot of things, but I can't as the mayor, and it's 6 months, I don't know it happened that long. Yes, Jerry?
Any guess as to when they are gonna have the audit available?
They're gonna be back here
Finished?
on May the 25th, and, you know, I
To,
We
What are they
found
gonna-
some
what-
of the stuff they needed since then, so
Yeah,
they're
they're-
hoping
So-
that they can get it all done in one
they're doing the
day.
field.
so maybe
work.
May 25th, maybe,
Possibly.
it'll be finished at least.
It won't be
Won't
finished
be
that day,
finished, but they'll be done.
No, I know.
but hopefully they'll be
But-
wound up. Yes, Christine?
Okay, so to go back to Tony's question, is this gonna put us in jeopardy by having a bad, audit or whatever, getting a low score? Is this gonna put us in jeopardy of everything that we worked for?
When people have to look at the audit, they don't read the part that says the not, what do you call it, the shortcomings,
Findings.
basically, yeah.
Okay,
They're looking to see what your bottom line
Thank you,
is.
John.
okay,
Our bottom line is good,
okay,
bottom line is real good,
okay.
so no.
I guess I was under the impression that all of the corrections that you do within your accounting reflects on your audit, whether or not it's good or bad. And
Yeah.
so I was under the impression we were working toward, that, and it impacted. So if I'm under the wrong impression, that's fine, but that's,
Sure.
There was talk about the credit rating, which we need the audit to be able to do that. Can you foresee anything in that audit that's gonna be a negative? If
We
we
haven't-
were to pursue,
we haven't discussed the credit rating.
yeah, we did,
No, we didn't.
we did.
We discussed it and said we weren't going forward.
That was not true either, we were waiting for I'm not here to argue, I'm just, and I don't know what the big deal is. Why you would be so resistant to discussing.
I didn't say I was resistant, I said it was talked about,
But
and
it
we
was
said we
talked
weren't
about.
gonna do it.
It was talked about, and I'm
was
not gonna
talked
keep arguing with you, it was definitely was talked about.
Well, it
Go
was
back and
touched
look at your
on,
notes.
but we never
I
got
don't
into
need
the
to.
actual
You missed them.
discussion.
I'm not the one with the memory problem.
Darcy, yes, please.
Stop.
So, any other questions?
Are you saying I have a mental
Stop.
problem?
Hey!
Hmm?
Jerry,
Can we move to 6, please?
could I?
Really? God,
Let's get to the end of this thing.
how stupid.
Request an announcement?
All right, question announcements. I don't know what I've done with my agenda now.
Here's the
Thanks. Okay, item 6, requested announcements. A, request by council to place items on a future agenda. Darcy.
Request to put on agenda, I would like a discussion, possible action on going out for RFQs for a forensic audit.
Auditors.
No, a forensic audit.
Oh, a
deep
forensic audit.
Audit on our
That's-
financials, not just what they're
Immediately.
doing. I want one now. A forensic audit, and I almost don't care what it costs.
Okay.
A reminder on all the workshops we asked for in the last meeting.
Anybody else? Okay, item B, announcement by council. Darcy?
Elections are going on right now. Please don't forget to vote. The poll sites are being consolidated due to just not that many voters vote in non-presidential elections. So everybody in the city votes here at the Ray Mauer. election day is a week from today, so that'll be your last day to be able to vote, but the polling sites are open through Friday right now.
Thank you. Christine?
The Memorial Day Parade, the Chamber of Commerce has a theme. We've talked about this, I think, at the last meeting. They are actually going to, they have a new category for awards, that they're going to give an award to the float that best represents the theme of Never Forgotten for Memorial Day, so we can try to remember what Memorial Day is really all about.
That's great.
I did
Okay.
have one more, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
A couple of us have already volunteered to buy tickets for the baseball game. I know Allison volunteered to buy 2. I volunteered to buy 2. What's the trash company?
Republic just bought 21, a whole section.
And they bought 21. So Allison and I were talking about if some more city employees or council members wanted to pitch in. No need to speak up, but if anybody else wanted to pitch in, it would be a good way to give back to the community. I know Republic's doing. They're given to the Boys and Girls Club, so kids could go. I don't care how
Is this an
my
announcement or
Yeah.
meeting agenda item?
No,
no, it's a
Oh, we moved
personal
on
thing.
to-
Yeah,
oh,
it's
okay.
a
I thought we
personal
did it the other way.
donation. So, I don't care where my 2 tickets are donated to, if it's poor people or what, but however. So, if anybody else would like.
Just a reminder that it's National Police Week. And tomorrow we're having our luncheon to support our few officers that we have here in the building, at noon.
It is a potluck for all city staff and.
Yes.
Okay.
And what time are we doing that?
12 o'clock tomorrow.
Thank you.
That's all. May I please make a motion to adjourn?
You certainly may.
second that one.
Discussion, all in favor?
Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, okay, sorry.
Are you in favor of adjourning too?
Yes.
All in favor, none opposed, 8:41.